What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more AFK Journey, and today, well, we're talking about some of our polls that we posted. If you guys haven't checked out our community tab, or you haven't seen it pop up on YouTube, go check it out. We've done a ton of voting on a ton of different polls, trying to figure out who the favorite male hero in the game is, the favorite female, and then pitting them off against each other, with Cecia, kind of winning the overall versus Odie. You can still vote, so we can see if any percentages change after the fact. I basically leave every one of these up for day. We're getting close to 3,000 votes or more on almost every single poll, so it's kind of cool to see what you guys think. But something was very shocking to me. The most recent poll I put up was, who would win in a 1v1 tournament among Celestial and Hypogean heroes? And almost everybody is picking Scarlita, and I'm like, oh lord, I don't think a lot of people actually understand what a lot of these Celestial and Hypogean heroes do besides Ryer. They see a lot of whales picking Scarlita for PvP. However, in a 1v1 setup, I honestly don't think she'll win. So we're going to be going over what these Celestials and Hypogeans do, because I feel like a lot of people really don't understand. And there's a couple key facts that honestly make these bottom two actually the best when it comes to a 1v1 type style, because of the way their kit works. But we also need to talk about why and what makes heroes like Scarlita really strong. Now, as an average free-to-play player, don't look anywhere else besides Ryer. Just don't. If you're free to play, low spender, Ryer to Mythic Plus. That is the only thing you think about. Don't you think about anything else. Ryer to Mythic Plus. Then you get to make some decisions like we're going to talk about here. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let's talk about Celestials and Hypogeans and dispel some of the myths. So let's go through these heroes and talk about kind of what makes these heroes so good, starting with Scarlita. So this is a very interesting one, because I think most people who have gone up against the Scarlita is usually in PvP, and most of the time you see her giving crazy shields to the entire team and then ultimating and like just one-shotting your entire squad, which in a very team-based setup for PvP, she is very strong. Not only is she there for damage, but she's really interesting in the fact that when the battle starts, she's going to blink to the backline, ascend in the sky, be untargetable. So if you're trying to swap with like a Ryer on your side, you can't swap Scarlita, you can't silence her, you can't do any of that stuff. So if you're trying to do something like that, it is going to fail. And then she hovers in the air. While in the air, she is invincible and recovers energy per second and increases attack till the battle ends. 15 seconds in the battle, or when there are two or few surviving non-summon allies, she descends near the foremost enemy, so to the front line. She then smashes and does all this crazy interesting stuff. But she does some things that are pretty interesting. Scarlita sends the weakest non-summon ally a blessing while in the air, granting them a shield equal to 15% of her max HP. This shield can go higher and everything, and this is really strong in keeping a hero alive, especially in a PvP scenario. And then, of course, increases execution, all this other fun stuff. She does true damage if there's at least 4 surviving non-heroes. So you can see why I feel like there's a very bad misconception in that poll. In a 1v1 scenario, most of her toolkit is actually not really even a thing, to be honest. Because most of her abilities actually buffs her teams or synergizes with her teams. And if we're talking about the 1v1 scenario, not that great. If we're talking about team PvP, very strong. Next up, let's move over to honestly one of my favorite Celestial and Hypogean heroes, and that is Dionel. Sadly though, he's really good at AoE damage, but he's just not the best really in any category besides maybe very late game build pushing. So Dionel's really interesting because he basically, with his ultimate, he jumps into the air, becomes untargetable, and then he just starts chucking spears down from the sky and hits like a big AoE area. That does mean that during this time he cannot take damage and he's completely invulnerable. This is absolutely amazing. Beyond that, his normal attack is something that would not apply in the 1v1 scenario, but in team combat, especially if you had someone like an Aaron on your team, grouping enemies together is kind of devastating, because his spear that he throws goes in a straight line and he literally penetrates all the enemies along that range. It doesn't matter if it hits the first, it's going to keep going through all the enemies. So if you do have a cool combo, it could be really good. Sadly though, besides that, he doesn't have anything super great besides that. He does have some buffing synergies. He has more attack speed. When he does get to Mythic Plus, he's going to summon a Light Spear after a short delay, dealing damage to all enemies, which is pretty cool. Again, he has really good AoE damage, but he's not really necessary. Honestly, I feel like DNL might be one of the best options in this 1v1 poll, and yet he has literally like one of the lowest picks. Again, it's not a hero you want to go for. I might actually build him coming up soon because I finished 2 of my Celestial and Hypogeans. We'll have to see if we can highlight him a little bit later. Now, this man honestly would win, I think, any 1v1 because, let's be honest, he loves picking apart and picking away at enemies who are by themselves. He's a very, very unique hero in the form of Burial or Burial, whatever you want to call him. It's really, really interesting. So, he basically hides in the shadow and becomes invincible while hidden. If there is an isolated enemy, which in this poll we're talking about 1v1, he will move to that isolated target, dealing damage to that target. Otherwise, he'll stay in the shadow and recover a total amount of energy. When this part doesn't really matter because essentially if he dies in combat, if an enemy non-summon hero dies within 10 seconds, he revives, which is cool. But again, that wouldn't apply in this situation. But that is what makes him very strong in the zoo composition. The one thing cool about his hero focus is very useful. It reduces the damage dealt by an isolated enemy by 6% and increases their damage taken by 3%. And again, in a 1v1 scenario, they're going to be isolated. And then of course, if a non-summon enemy is isolated for over 3 seconds, they lose energy and generate a silhouette that inherits 50% of his stats. This is really, really awesome because he's essentially going to do damage with a clone of that enemy, which is really cool. And then his ultimate's really awesome. He flies beneath the enemy, hiding in the shadow, dealing damage, absorbing energy, and he's invincible during all of this. I highly doubt any one of these other Celestial and Hypogeans could beat this because of how he's built. He's literally made for 1v1 combat, and yet he is the lowest on this poll, which is crazy. Now, the one place he really does thrive is with a Floribel Zoo type comp with tons of summons because his shadows from Mythic Plus do count. His silhouettes do count as a summon, so it do the shield and everything. Very interesting. Not a hero you should really be going for on your account. We might do it on our free-to-play just to see how he is, but in a 1v1 scenario, I think you would hands down win this. Last but certainly not least, Ryer. He's very, very strong, although most of his kit in this 1v1 scenario would not be valid. This is definitely the Celestial Hypogean you should be building on your account to Mythic Plus, mainly because his ability to swap enemy position with your position, basically making them take 25% more damage. You can do that versus bosses, and that is the most important part about this, is increasing the damage done to bosses by 25%. Now, he does have some other niche uses in PvP. I personally use him with Floribel in PvP. It's a really sick combo that we'll show at some point. But yeah, this is interesting because, again, I don't think most of his kit would do very good in a 1v1. If I had to rank them, oh man, I don't know. I think if I had to put them in order in heroes that I thought would win this battle, I think it would be Burial number 1, DNL number 2. Because Scarla would have to literally like one-shot come down from the sky. I don't know. This is interesting. I personally think Burial and DNL would have the best chances, then Scarla, and then Ryer would be like dead last. Because again, this isn't a poll based on who's your favorite. It's who do you think would win in a 1v1. I just can't see Burial losing this, to be honest. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you guys go and vote. This actually has a ton of comments with people talking about what they think would happen. Scarla got as duel. It would be a Dio for sure. Casuals picking the 2 worst options. Answer is Dio or Burial. Yeah. DNL too squishy. Ryer no damage. Burial, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure. That's the big one right there, I feel like. So let me know what you guys think. Go vote in the poll because I'd love to see what you guys actually think after hearing a little bit more about their kits. I'll see you guys next time.